Mark Rogers TV talking some Alabama football as we do here each and every Wednesday night, and we can only do it with Stephen M. Smith from Touchdown Alabama. Please join him there as the folks over there at Touchdown Alabama get you prepped for the Alabama football season, starting with that first week against that huge matchup against the Florida State Seminoles. Stephen and I, in recent weeks, getting you set for positional breakdowns. We've talked a number of positional breakdowns on the defense. We're going to finish up here with cornerbacks and safeties for 2017 as SEC Media Days, Stephen. Wow, right around the corner. August camp will be right after that.
It's insane how quickly this summer's going, even though in the state of Alabama, a lot of rain going around, but it's absolutely insane how fast the offseason is moving. We're getting a chance to not just, talk about football, but pretty soon watch some football again, and especially with SEC Media Days coming in, the last wave of the offseason. But the first piece of the conversation about talking on these teams, talking on these coaching staffs, and really trying to see and develop which programs will separate themselves from the pack and try to push for a national championship. So it's getting close to that time where we can stop talking about it and actually start viewing.
We could do a year's worth of shows just talking about the legacy of Nick Saban and what he's produced at Alabama and going through the facts and the numbers that prove his excellence there with the Tide in his 10 seasons. But the coach takes a special pride in the play of his defensive backfield. That's his lineage. That's what made him a great football coach to start, was his work in the defensive backfield, both at the collegiate and at the NFL level. You can, again, go through the numbers, and it's exceptional. Looking back over his stay at Alabama, there have been 9 players that have some combination of All-American first-team status, NFL draft status in the first 2 rounds, and leaving the school early to enter the pros. It's been quite the run of players in the secondary. I'm going to ask you about one in particular as we get started here. Minkah Fitzpatrick. There's been much speculation just because of the needs of the team versus his skill set, which is pretty much he can do anything, as to where he needs to play for this team this year.
Minkah Fitzpatrick's diversity or versatility is second to none. I mean, here's the guy that, coming from St. Peter's Prep School in Old Bridge, New Jersey, the system he ran there, the exact same as the system that's being ran at Alabama. So when he came in 2015 as a freshman, he was already hip to what Saban was running, what the program was running. Came in, immediately battled for a spot at corner, and though he did not get the starting role at corner, he earned the starting role at star in Alabama's nickel and dime defense and played very well. We're talking 2 interceptions for touchdowns that year. I think he had a team high 11 pass breakups, between 45 and 48 tackles. Minkah had a big time year as a freshman. And then, of course, last year played very well at star. And then when Eddie Jackson went down with the season-ending leg injury against Texas A&M, got some time at safety and played well. So this is an individual that versatility, can play corner, can play star, can play safety, and it really depends on where does Alabama feel the most comfortable with him playing. That will not just determine where he lines up at, Mark, but also where the other players will line up at, because you've got Tony Brown back, you've got Hootie Jones back, you've got Trevon Diggs, who play both from the defensive side of the football and offensively a season ago. And then you have a bunch of young guys behind them. So wherever Alabama feels the most comfortable lining Minkah will determine where does he play, whether it's corner or safety, the output that he will bring, as well as some of the other guys on this roster, or a couple of other guys on this roster. Where will they play, and where can we see them possibly emerge? So Minkah brings a lot to the table with not just his skill set, but also where other guys fall in line as it relates to where he will play.
So, Stephen, with all that being said, you're going to have to put on your coach's hat and kind of project through the August camp. And give us your best guesstimate in terms of, let's start with the cornerback position, how you think they're going to line up at quarterback, cornerback, and what the depth situation is going to be there.
I think at corner, and I think at cornerback, Alabama's going to have Anthony Averett at the left corner. I think behind Anthony Averett, you could definitely see Tony Brown, Shaheem Carter, a good bit of Nigel Knott in that spot should he continue to rehab and play well. But if I was coming out in my base 3-4 defense, the regular defense, which Alabama only plays when it is facing against teams like LSU and Arkansas, I would have Anthony Averett at corner. The opposite corner to him, I would have Tony Brown, and I would keep Minka at safety. I would keep Ronnie Harrison at safety. If Minka is playing safety, yes, in the regular package, Anthony Averett corner, Tony Brown corner, Minka at safety, Ronnie Harrison at safety. If I'm going at nickel, kind of the same thing. Anthony Averett at the corner, Tony Brown at the corner. At star, I would either have Shaheem Carter at that spot, possibly a Trayvon Diggs, and at safety, your typical two, Minka and Ronnie Harrison. If Minka's playing corner, here is where things get really interesting, because you would have Minka at corner, you would have Anthony Averett at corner coming out of regular. At the safety spot, there's Ronnie Harrison and there's Hootie Jones, which would give you two of your 6'2" and taller safeties. At that star position, in nickel, Anthony Averett at corner, Minka at corner. At star, there's Tony Brown. Tony Brown at star if I'm Nick Saban. Behind Tony Brown, there would be a Shaheem Carter and then a Trayvon Diggs. And then at safety, of course, Ronnie Harrison, Hootie Jones. If we're talking about the dime package, then we've got Anthony Averett at corner, Minka Fitzpatrick at corner. At star, Tony Brown. Behind him, or Trayvon Diggs. In that dime spot, that money position, we're looking at either a Trayvon Diggs or a Deontay Thompson. And then at safety, once again, Ronnie Harrison and Hootie Jones. Saban, that's personally what I would have if I'm Nick Saban. But it all goes back to, once again, Minka Fitzpatrick's diversity is so off the charts where and you could have some of the other guys step up in different spots. And this what really brings in the genius of Nick Saban. He doesn't really hammer down, who's my corner, who's my safety. That's why he refers to them all as defensive backs, because he plays them everywhere. And then he can truly see which one fits where at the best spot. But if I was Saban, depending on where you line up Minka, this opens the door for Tony Brown. This opens the door for Hootie Jones. This opens the door for Deontay Thompson. And from an inside slot corner role for a Trayvon Diggs.
And to your point, Stephen, if you check out your site in particular and a few others, they know Alabama football well enough to just list in some of the articles and so forth these guys as defensive backs, as was the case while I was doing my research on this. While most of the programs across the country are able to make that distinction between quarterback and safety for pretty much the entire group of players that they have on the roster, there's more versatility here. So Minka and Ronnie Harrison are two of the very best in college football at their positions, whether it's corner or safety for Minka and the safety position for Ronnie Harrison. 83 tackles, second behind Reuben Foster last year on the team. He had a couple picks. He had 1.5 tackles for loss. Minka just filled up the box score across the board, both as a tackler and as a big play guy in the passing game with 2 pick sixes and 6 interceptions, 8 career. Past that, Tony Brown's had a capable career, chipped in with 32 tackles last year. Anthony Averett definitely getting a lot of play as one of the best corners in the SEC. And folks, you need to check out our top 5 list at SEC cornerback, safety, and at the wide receiver position with Stephen M. Smith as well. But past that, The talent's there. We know that. That's obvious, the 4 and 5 stars. But there seems to be a bit of a gap, and maybe not a lot of guys that have a lot of track record past those 4 or 5 players.
There's a lot of young talent. It's a lot of unproven talent. You look at Shaheem Carter, young man from Kentwood, Louisiana, 5-star recruit, 6 feet, 195 pounds, a lot of potential. Played a good bit last season, but still kind of a guy trying to make his headway through. You've got Aaron Robinson, young man coming out of the Florida area who played quite a bit on special teams a season ago, did some things during Alabama spring game, but you can see still some areas of Aaron Robinson's game that need work, that need development. Trevon Diggs, despite the fact that he played both defensive back and wide receiver in high school, coming out of the Maryland area, and a lot of people equate him with Cyrus Jones. Remember Cyrus Jones in 2012, who came out of Baltimore, Maryland, into that Alabama 2012 signing class with T.J. Yeldon, Amari Cooper, and Cyrus Jones he came as a slot receiver. And in 2013, the summer of that offseason going into 2013 regular season, he was flipped from wide receiver to defensive back, and he had his struggles, Mark. Had his struggles bodying up against receivers, defending the football, playing the football, getting himself in position. Of course, the first receiver he faced as a DB was all 6'6" of Mike Evans against Texas A&M, and that's a challenge in itself. So he struggled a bit in 2013, struggled some in 2014. It wasn't until his senior year in 2015 that Cyrus Jones really became that seasoned guy, that veteran guy, and played extremely well, helping the Crimson Tide win the college football playoff national championship. So I'm not saying that Trevon can't grow to being an outside corner and a proven guy, but as far as right now, I wouldn't put him as that true number 2 outside corner spot because it took Cyrus Jones 2 years to learn it. I don't think Trevon Diggs will be able to catch on in a quick amount of time due to the fact that Alabama's trying to win championship number 17 this upcoming season. Nick Saban trying to win his 5th in Alabama this upcoming season. And it all goes back to having the right guys on the field and the guys that know what they're supposed to do right now. There's a difference between having the studs in the defensive backfield that you know are studs, that you've recruited as studs, that you have recruited that play defensive back and defensive back only, versus having somebody that you have to flip from being a wide receiver to a DB. Because what that tells an offensive coordinator, what that tells a wide receiver, what that tells a quarterback is, hold on here. They're not used to playing this position. They're playing wide receiver. They came off playing wide receiver last year, and now they're playing DB. This is a matchup that we can exploit because we put our most physical receiver on him. That's a mismatch that we got to take, that we can choose to take. So if I'm Alabama, there's a lot of talent in this defensive backfield. There's a lot of unproven talent. Saban looking to work in that talent and give some experience and get some reps in. But if I'm Saban, I'm looking at Minkah Fitzpatrick, Anthony Averett, Ronnie Harrison, Hootie Jones, Tony Brown. I'm looking at 5 to 6 guys that I've recruited solely at DB, who I've seen play nothing solely but DB on that field, and been working a Deontay Thompson, working a Trevon Diggs, work in some of this younger talent to get it acclimated. Because after the 2017 season, you're losing a lot of guys. But if you're trying to win the college football playoff this season, you've got to put your guys that are used to playing DB on the field first, starting with Minkah Fitzpatrick, and been working everybody else into the flow.